You open your banking app. You tell yourself you're just going to check the balance. Then you close it. Then you open it again. The number is lower than you expected. It's always lower than you expected. You didn't buy anything outrageous. You didn't go on vacation. You didn't make one big, terrible mistake. You just spent a little here, a little there, and somehow the money is gone again. And the strangest part, you knew it would happen, you knew, and you did it anyway. That's not weakness. That's not stupidity. That's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. And the design is older than money itself. Here's what nobody tells you when they say just budget better or stop impulse buying. The real reason you can't stop spending has nothing to do with disciplines. It has everything to do with how your nervous system was wired 200,000 years ago and how every modern store, app, and algorithm has learned to exploit that wiring with surgical precision. Let's go back, way back. Your ancestors lived in a world where resources were never guaranteed. Food could disappear. Seasons changed. The herd moved on. If you found something good, berries, meat, shelter, the right move was not to plan for next month. The right move was to consume it now before someone else did, before the weather turned, before it rotted. Your brain developed a reward system built entirely around this logic. When you acquire something, your brain releases dopamine, not when you enjoy it, not when you use it, when you get it, the chase, the clicks, the add to cart. That moment of acquisition floods your system with a chemical hit designed to reward fast action in a world of scarcity. The neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz spent years mapping this system. What he found changed how we understand desire. Dopamine, he discovered, is not actually a pleasure chemical. It is an anticipation chemical. It spikes hardest not when you receive the reward, but in the moments just before, the moment you think you're about to get something. The scroll, the brow, the moment you hover over buy now, and then the purchase happens, and the dopamine drops, and you feel slightly empty. And so you start browsing again. That loop is not a flaw in your character. It is a flaw in the match between your ancient brain and your modern world. Because the modern world was built specifically to trigger that loop as many times per day as possible. Think about the last time you walked into a store and bought only what was on your list, not the store that designed its layout to place high-margin items at eye level. Not the store that pumps a specific scent through the air conditioning, a practice that the retail consultant Alan Hirsch proved increases average purchase value by up to 30%. Not the store that places the essential things, bread, milk, eggs, at the far back corner so you have to walk past everything else to reach them. You were not weak, you were outgunned. Now take that same architecture and put it in your pocket. That is what your phone is. Every notification, every flash sale timer, every only 2 left in stock label is a precision-engineered dopamine trigger. The behavioral economist Dan Ariely showed in study after study that humans are not rational consumers who occasionally make emotional decisions. We are emotional creatures who occasionally make rational decisions, and almost every rational decision you try to make about money is made after an emotional one has already been made first. You didn't decide to spend. You felt something. Boredom, stress, loneliness, a vague, dissatisfied feeling you couldn't name, and the spending was the reflex. It was your nervous system reaching for a fast solution to a feeling it didn't know how to process. This is what psychologists call emotional spending. And research from the American Psychological Association shows that over 75% of adults report using shopping as a coping mechanism for stress, not occasionally, regularly, not because they are bad with money, because spending works. It works in the short term. It delivers a genuine chemical relief. It temporarily quiets the part of your brain that is anxious or restless or bored. The problem is not that it doesn't work. The problem is that it stops working in about 20 minutes. And then you need to do it again. Here is the part that will make you uncomfortable. You probably already know this. Some part of you has always known this. You felt the emptiness after a purchase. You felt the buyer's remorse before the item even arrived. You've thought, while still looking at the checkout screen, that this probably won't fix what you're actually feeling, and you bought it anyway. That is not irrational. That is the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking, being overruled by the limbic system, the emotional, reactive, ancient part of your brain that operates faster than conscious thought. By the time your rational mind can form a reason to stop, the emotional brain has already decided. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman called this the difference between System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 is fast, instinctive, emotional. System 2 is slow, deliberate, logical. And when it comes to spending, System 1 almost always wins. The modern economy knows this. It was built on this knowledge. Credit cards are perhaps the most elegant exploitation of this mechanism ever designed. Research from MIT, a study by Drazen Prelick and Duncan Simonster, found that people are willing to pay literally twice as much for the same item when paying by credit card versus cash. Twice. Not 10% more, not 20% more. Double, because cash is physical. You feel the loss, you see it leave your hand, your brain registers it as pain, genuine neurological pain, but a card tap, a phone payment, there is no pain signal, just a number changing on a screen somewhere. Your brain does not register it as real loss, so it does not resist it. And this is the architecture your spending life is built inside: invisible pain, instant reward, ancient instinct, modern triggers, a system designed by billions of dollars of behavioral research pointed directly at the exact vulnerabilities your ancestors evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. So what do you actually do with this? The first thing you do is stop blaming yourself, not as an excuse, as a strategy. Because shame and self-blame activate the same stress response that causes emotional spending in the first place. Research from the University of California found that self-compassion, treating your financial mistakes with the same understanding you'd offer a friend, is actually more effective at changing spending behavior long-term than self-criticism. Guilt makes you spend more. Clarity helps you spend less. The second thing is to introduce frictions. Your brain is looking for the path of least resistance. The one-click purchase, the saved card, the in-app payment. Every additional step you add between impulse and action is a chance for your prefrontal cortex to catch up. Delete saved payment information. Put a 24-hour rule on any purchase over a certain amount, not because you can't buy it, because the pause gives System 2 a chance to speak. The third thing is to find the feeling under the spending, not the thing you bought. The moment before you reached for your phone, were you bored? Were you anxious? Were you scrolling because a conversation felt hollow and you needed to feel something? Your spending is a signal. It is your nervous system telling you something. When you learn to read it instead of silence it, the pattern starts to lose its grip. Because here's the truth. Nobody in the financial advice industry wants to say out loud, your spending problem is not a math problem. If it were, every person who understood compound interest would be rich. It is not a willpower problem. If it were, every person who has sworn off impulse buying would have kept their word. It is a nervous system problem. It is a dopamine problem. It is a 200,000-year-old brain trying to survive in a world that was specifically built to make it stumble. You open your banking app. The number is lower than you expected, but this time you don't close it and pretend. This time you understand exactly why it happened, and that understanding is the first thing that has ever actually been worth buying.